Hi guys, I'm Shmi, hello to you and welcome back to the channel where you join me to take a first look at the new Porsche 911 GT3 RS, but I also want to talk a little bit, following the very recent delivery of my new 911 GT3, about whether I should have waited to get one of these instead. So we'll talk about that later on. Let's first get started taking a look around the new GT3 RS. You will notice one very distinct similarity about the new RS to my GT3, and that comes in the form of the colour. This car is launched in lizard green, or lizardgrün in German. My car is in gelbgrün, which I believe is something very similar, although it's quite hard to tell because we're under the show lights here, which give a slightly different impression. But let's take a walk around the new RS and talk about basically what's changed in this version. And of course, this is effectively the last model potentially based on the 991 generation of the 911, the 991.2, and it introduces some of the learnings from the GT2 RS, which of course has gone ahead and set the Nürburgring Nordschleife lap record, again back in Porsche's hands. So it develops on top of the GT3. It's the the most powerful naturally aspirated flat six that Porsche have put in a car. It's gone up now to 520 horsepower, so 20 up from my GT3. It has 460 Newton meters of torque, so you'll do the 0 to 100 kilometers an hour sprint in 3.2 seconds. Naturally, the engine is mounted at the rear and it is fully rear driven. One interesting change versus GT3s is the gearbox option. So previously you could have the manual or the 7-speed PDK. This car does away with the 6-speed manual. It is now entirely the double clutch, the Porsche Doppelkupplung. It's a fantastic system, works incredibly well. We'll have a look at the interior as well, by the way. But you will notice there are huge differences in the visual terms with the aero, and I'm obviously pointing at the rear wing. This car generates double the downforce of the GT3 of the same generation, the 991.2, also significantly more of course versus the previous gen GT3 RS as well. There's a lot more to that around the front, around the back and under the car as well. So we had a look when the GT3 was launched at the underfloor elements of the car, because there are also vanes to direct air around the underneath of the car. The car itself is not significantly lighter than the GT3. There are a few weight savings in different components used throughout the car, but effectively by adding on additional aero and making it slightly larger in the process, and it also has larger wheels and tyres, that pretty much negates the changes that you get directly through the weight savings that are done. You can opt to have this car in the Weissach package. We'll get more to that in a moment. But around the front, you'll notice it's just a little bit wider and a little bit more butch. It has a similar visual design, so the new slats that point outwards and down in an A shape rather than the previous generation, which had a V shape. But this lower skirt, this plastic skirt around the front, which basically protects you from scraping, because it's a cheap component to replace. It detaches from this point. You'll notice is a little bit wider than the GT3. The indicator lamp here, for example, comes out towards the side. These parts, the front fenders and the central bonnet, are carbon fibre to save weight, of course. The tyres and the wheels are a little bit wider. These are 265 at the front and 325 at the rear, whereas the GT3 is 245 and 305, so 20 wider all around. Naturally, it's coming on some sticky rubber, some Michelin Pilot Sport Cup 2 track tyres, good for driving on the race track, and of course centre locks, yellow calipers with ceramic brakes on this as well. So a distinct feature that was on the 991.1 RS were these fender louvers, distinctly marking that it was an RS, and those have continued similarly to the GT2 RS, all part of the car's very hardcore nature. This door trim sticker that you can see, the GT3 RS sticker, is standard. You can have that deleted should you prefer on the car if you don't want to have it. So let's talk a little bit about the Weissach package itself. You can have the option to have clear visual carbon fibre for the bonnet and a carbon fibre roof. If you opt for the Weissach package, it will get those, and also magnesium wheels, which are 29 kilograms lighter than the standard GT3 RS. Weissach package cars haven't initially been hugely available in the first wave of customer deliveries, but they'll come a little bit further down the line. It also has a lighter exhaust system, a titanium exhaust system, with those giant silver tailpipes in the centre, so the GT cars often have those, although the GT2 RS has two very large exhausts placed either side of centre. The engine is obviously back here. It is the 4-litre naturally aspirated flat 6. And you can see, just catching a glimpse through the rear window, that very bright green lizard green rolled cage that is rather visible and prominent there at the back. So to me, this is, you know, the ultimate track toy. It is a step up on the GT3. Spring rates for the suspension are doubled at the front. They're 40% increased at the rear for obviously more handling and turn-in performance, but will harden the ride in the process. Down towards the back, I'm not the biggest fan of this design. It's almost an additional panel gap that you get here by way of these ducts, or to remove the turbulent air from the rear wheel arches. Looking around, it's very nice. It's a very predictable model. I guess we knew what this car would become when they upgraded from GT3 to the RS. But let me just swing round and have a glimpse into the inside of the car and show you what it's like in here, where we have obviously lots of Alcantara, the glossy carbon fibre trim, the door pulls. In the RS you get the material door pulls rather than the physical items. It's got the lizard green contrast stitch to match in with that carbon fibre dashboard, even 12 o'clock marking stripe in green as well to match into that. In the centre you have quite a nice little touch here with the green accents at the base of the PDK gear stick, the 7-speed PDK, and honestly when you're revving this car up to 9,000 RPM, you'll spot it goes all the way up to 9. It will sound pure heaven when you shift it and you get the noises from the exhaust off the back of it. So the seats are the carbon fibre backed fixed bucket seat, the 918 style seat. You've got green seat belts, it's all green in here. The green perforated Alcantara in the centre with a darker stripe up at that section of it. The embroidery in the headrest, and then this green cage, very much track spec. You can have it opted then with the track package, the Weissach package, to have the multi-point harnesses as well for a more proper racing experience and just to hold you in a little bit more snug. Nice carbon fibre door sills as well. But let's just pop open the boot just to come around and have a look at the back very quickly. There's not too much you can see back here. If we just lift it up, you'll catch a quick glimpse at the GT3 RS 4.0. Well, as much of it as you can see, obviously engine mounted deep down in the car, traditional style with Porsche 911s. You get a nice carbon fibre plate over the top of that though, just to take a little look at if you want to see it when you're back here. Shutting that back down then, clicked into place. The RS is about 44mm wider at the rear, 22mm wider at the front. You really do see that, especially from here, the way the arches stick out the side. And obviously it has these intakes at the side for cooling in towards the engine, enlarged again by having this exterior panel as well around that. And something you notice down at the bottom is the extra width of those skirts. The GT3 more tucks underneath, so you don't get it coming straight out towards the side as you see on this car. So let's talk a little bit now about the topic, really. Should I have waited for a GT3 RS? And I think this is quite a complex question. To me, they're obviously quite similar cars. This is clearly a marked step up in terms of being more hardcore. It's more expensive. It's about, I think, about £23,000 more expensive as a base car, and that's before you spec it up with options like the Weissach package. It depends on usage. Obviously, I've said I'm going to drive mine on the track, where the RS is obviously the ultimate track car. That's the whole point of the RS in the first place. But I wanted to drive it through this year, ordering one of these now. Obviously, remember the GT3 was launched right here at Geneva 12 months ago. You could assume that if I was lucky enough to even get an allocation, it would be in 12 months' time, so it wouldn't be here for quite a while. Maybe there's an option in the future to upgrade. You don't necessarily need to go full on. I'm not a huge track hero. I've done a lot of driving, track days, open, relaxed type environment, a few races, but I want to get to know my GT3 on the racetrack, on the Nordschleife, for example, without feeling too stressed about it. And the more valuable the car gets, the more stressed you are about it, and the less you feel you can really learn with the car and adjust. And obviously the more performance, it also gets a notch further on as well from that. So let's say, for example, I opted for a GT2 RS, which is obviously in seriously limited supply. That would be quite terrifying, I think, with 700 horsepower. That's a completely different animal. Think about the performance. My car, my GT3, has set a 7-minute and 13-second time at the Nordschleife. This might be about 10 seconds faster, but I'm not really going to, I guess, notice or experience that. I'll have to discover myself and train, and maybe if I feel I get to the limit, it's time to upgrade to something a little bit faster to use for these purposes rather than the GT3. In the meantime, it's a very similar car. It sounds very similar. The GT3 is slightly more road usable as well. It's just a little bit softer, a little bit more compliant for regular usage. So really, I think think it swings and roundabouts. I would be very happy with an RS. I'm very happy with the GT3. I've seen other people who have owned and driven both equally. They're quite similar, slightly different driving experiences, but on the whole, ultimately, I think very similar things. So should I have waited? That's up to each individual person. Who knows? In this case, I didn't. I've got my GT3, and I cannot wait for the trips and adventures to start with it. But hopefully at some point get an opportunity to drive with one of these, the new 991.2 RS, and see what it's like as well. Anyway, that is a first look now at the brand new car that's had its world premiere and debut here at the 2018 Geneva Motorshow. I hope you've enjoyed the video and taking a good look at it. Let me know down below what you think, and I'll be sure to catch up with you again with another video very, very soon. Thanks as always, guys. I'll see you then. Cheers.